Hi, I'm Ain Sakata. This is Crash Course Literature, and today we'll be talking about Agatha Christie.
Okay, guys, I seriously don't know what was the deal with Aiden. He can't pronounce Agatha Christie. He pronounced Agatha Christie. Okay, so you just gotta deal with that. We can record it.
Christie's Murder on the Orient Express.
Hey, shut up, nerd!
You suck!
Oh, Mr. Sakata, books are a waste of time, especially detective novels are a waste of time and should not be studied by students like me. Not this one, me from the past, but this one. Let's start with the author. Agatha Christie was born on September 15th, 1890, in Torquay, United Kingdom. Having spent much of her childhood alone with her two elder siblings at boarding school, Christie grew up to live an unusual lifestyle. She grew up around diverse people because of her itinerant life. This enriched her understanding of different cultures because of their characteristics. Get a load of this guy. Growing up around three servants, seen at the time as a lower middle-class characteristic, resulted in a majority of Christie's books containing two or more servant characters, as well as the stories and secrets they would tell her. In Murder on the Orient Express, there are alone 3 servants. Christie always had a passion for history, and the passion was reflected with great historical accuracy in her novels. For example, the Armstrong kidnapping was based on the real-life Lindenberg kidnapping. Dude, I don't even know this book. When Christie was 15, she was enrolled at a Parisian school to enhance her French and political perspectives. Her adroitness with the French led her to use it in multiple books. Trust me, you'll know. You'll need a French translator, such as Coach Bennett.
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum.
Oh, we already had that one. In 1914, she married the valiant Colonel Archibald Christie, a Royal Flying Corps pilot during World War I. At the tender age of 24, she enrolled in the British Armed Forces as a nurse. Bro, this one doesn't even have a name. Let's film!
Alright.
Christie was so terrified of accidentally poisoning her patients that she would wake up at night to go to the hospital and check on her patient. This irrational fear was reflected in her novels, with a total of 83 deaths by poisoning. Murder on the Orient Express is one of the only books in which the victim is brutally murdered with a knife. In 1926, Christie's mother passed away, and her husband revealed that he was with another woman. Oh God. This dark time period was amplified in 1928 when they divorced and her disappearance for several days. 2 years later, in 1930, she remarried to Professor Max Mallowan, and then her true writings we've all come to love began. Living in England, she was surrounded by many Belgian refugees fleeing from German invasions, which was then Orient was born. As all good things do, she died in January 12th, 1976, at the ripe age of 85. She truly will live in infamy as the queen of crime. Let's use our deductive reasoning to analyze the plot of the novel. The main plot is that the book revolves on is really simple to comprehend. During a train trip, one of the passengers on the train was murdered, and it's up to the detective Poirier and his assistants Buick to find out who's the murderer. Throughout the book, Poirier collects all the evidence and interviews each of the train's passengers, but nothing makes sense with all the data he's recorded. As the climax of the book approaches, Poirier starts building up to the conclusion that all the passengers on the train had something to do with the murder of Ratchet. Even though he comes up with a final conclusion, he still interviews again all of the passengers and confronted each of them, saying that they are connected to the Armstrong family. Poirier gathers all the passengers present and gives them two solutions to the crime. The first one was that some person from the outside of the train came and stabbed Mr. Ratchet. The second is that they were all connected to the Armstrong family and had something to do with the murder case. The ending reflected the theme and actually gives us a reasonable conclusion that stands away from the stereotypical detective novel cliche, where there is one murder that shows up at the end of the book. Agatha Christie emphasizes two major themes that were inspired by historical events that took place within the time period she wrote the book: prejudice and bigotry, and the presence of an unambiguous vice. To understand Christie's novel, you need to understand the time period it takes place in. The novel takes place sometime in between World War I and World War II. The 1920s and 1930s were 2 decades of considerable tension built up in Europe. With the already existing racial tensions between Eastern and Western Europe and the rising support for anti-Semitism, Europe became the center for prejudice and bigotry. Christie immaculately reflects this scorn through diverse characters and their beliefs. Moreover, she metaphorized the issue by placing 12 characters of differing nationalities into a moving train. European nations are dwarfed into people, and their comments and attitudes, the contempt they feel towards each other. For example, Mr. Buick, the Frenchman who owns the Wagon-Lit Company and the Orient Express, points his finger at the Italian passengers when Poirier asks him who the murderer was.
I say, my friend, it's that big Italian. He comes from America, from Chicago. And remember, an Italian's weapon is the knife. And he stabs, not once, but several times. Christie, 72. Even after Poirier discredits the idea, Mr. Buick persists, stating with hard-fast confidence that Cassetti and the Italian were in the kidnapping business together, and that he had done something Cilician dubbed the double cross. Sicilian.
The second major theme the novel explores is how vice is unambiguous, and how Christie portrays and personifies the characteristic within the novel. Within the novel, Ratchet, or Cassetti, represents and personifies vice through the kidnapping and killing of innocent and docile Daisy Armstrong.
If a man ever deserved what he got, Ratchet or Cassetti is the man. I rejoiced at his end. Such a man wasn't fit to live.
Christie, 57. The manner in which Poirier described the moment that Ratchet passed him by in the train smoothly sums up my point.
It may be so, but I could not rid myself of the impression that evil had passed me very close.
Christie, 56. And that's why, Hugh Janus, Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express is a very important book, and...
Yo, what's going on?
Nothing to worry
Okay.
about. And that's why Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express is the quintessential detective novel. It not only incorporates mysterious cliches, but it also incorporates historical accuracy, philosophical ideals, and various other traits found in the continent of Europe during the early 20th century.